One of the things I really like about the textbook that we're using, aside from the fact that it's free and that it's written for students at Idaho universities and colleges specifically, is that it has a section on writing a reflective essay and the importance of reflection. And so your final essay for this course is going to be a reflective essay. And I suspect that you've never done an essay quite like this. Perhaps you have, and if you have, that's fantastic, but I think it'll be a different kind of experience for you. And when you think about reflection, there's another term for it that I'm going to discuss here in a moment called metacognition. You often think about it's just maybe, thinking back about a moment or rethinking something, which it certainly is and can be. But in the academic world, it is something more than that. And so this is going to be a description of what you're going to do for this final essay, a reflective essay. Many of you are too young to have a personal memory of 9/11. I am not at all too young for that. In fact, I was the publisher of the newspaper in Idaho Falls on that day, and I was actually at home still when my son, who was in high school at the time, came running in and told us about it, and we put on the TV, and so I immediately basically spent the next 24 hours at work going through how we would cover that. But later on, as the United States tried to figure out how to respond to that attack, Secretary of Defense at that time, Donald Rumsfeld, became a very, very public figure and was the leader in the push to ultimately go to war with Iraq and Afghanistan. And in one of his press conferences, he made this statement. And at the time, some folks kind of made fun of this statement, but it actually makes perfect sense. And you can tell that Rumsfeld understood about how to deal with cognition, how to learn things and how to experience things and how to identify the known from the unknown. Now, there's plenty of debate about whether we should have gone to war and the rightness or wrongness of that and its ultimate outcomes. That's for another class. I want to focus on this statement that he made. There are known knowns. There are things we know we know. We also know that there are known unknowns. That is to say, we know there are some things we do not know. But there are also unknown unknowns. The ones we don't know, we don't know. And it sounds a little, like word salad until you really think about it. And this was something he hadn't planned, I think, to say. He wasn't reading from a script. You could clearly see that this is how he thought. And he understood that there are these variables in what we know and we don't know, including that we often don't know what we don't know. And that's one of the reasons why we go to college, why we read and experience things, and that is one of the purposes of writing a reflective essay, to think about things that we think we know, that we know, things we know we don't know, and ultimately, hopefully, discover a few things that we didn't know until we do some additional work. So that's the purpose of a reflective essay. These two terms, reflection and metacognition, when they're used in the academic sense, mean very much the same thing, or certainly very similar meanings to each other, and they're discussed in the textbook. And again, I'm really glad that this textbook addresses this, because a lot of textbooks on writing don't go into this topic, and I'm very glad this one does. So metacognition essentially is thinking about, being aware of how you as a person, you specifically learn. one of the real challenges in education, when we're talking about education broadly, so when we build a class, we're building it for as many students to learn as possible, but it's not always a one-size-fits-all. And I did some research myself into this issue as part of my master's degree process, and it's particularly true in an online environment. Some students thrive in an online environment, some students really struggle in an online environment. But it's a matter of understanding how you learn and then making the adjustments to that. Reflection is part of that process, where you take a moment and you step back and you think about, how do you learn? And how should you adjust going forward to both learn perhaps differently, but also be aware that you need to make adjustments in how you approach the process. And so writing a reflective essay, and then we're going to go into more detail. This is your introduction to it, but writing a reflective essay is part of addressing that, how we learn, or how specifically you learn, and how to understand that and make use of it. So there's a very detailed description of the assignment in the module introducing your assignment, how to go about it, what the expectations are. This is just a very broad overview. So it's going to be a 2,000-word essay, and it's going to combine two basic ideas. You're going to combine some personal narrative, and this is one of the ones where I encourage you to use the first person, because it is, after all, a very personal thing. So you're going to be thinking about and writing about how you learn and reflecting on, as I said in the description, either a moment or a period of your life, or a person, or an experience, or maybe even you're going to go back and think about a movie you saw or a book you read. We can talk about that more in detail as part of the discussion board process, and we can have conversations one-on-one through texting and in any way you want. So that's the first step, but it's not just sort of, as we used to say in the journalism business, it's not just navel gazing. It's not just thinking about just me. It's then going outside of that and doing research that will help you fully understand that experience or that moment or that person. And again, we will go into more detail about what that means. So you're going to integrate your experience, your knowledge, things that you already know, with research that will help you identify things that you didn't know, and perhaps even some things that you didn't know. That's the whole idea here, and it is meant to be an experience in both self-discovery and in the process of identifying better ways to learn through writing. Writing and research will help you, if we do it right, look at your topic and draw some conclusions and take some learning from it.